Now, I'm not sure why your kitchen door not locked already. If you up in the middle of the night by yourself downstairs. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. All right, y'all. So real quick before we get into the video, I forgot to show y'all in the last video because I was too excited about the whales, but I got another tattoo. Can y'all even, the way my wrist got to turn for y'all to see this tattoo. Okay, here. Y'all still can't see it. Oh my god. There you go. It's so cute. I love my tattoo. We got it while we was in Costa Rica. Anyways. All right, y'all. This is a clip of me thinking and still forgetting to tell y'all that the day that y'all watch this is my birthday. It's my birthday. I think that's all I wanted to share with y'all today. So yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right into today's case. But y'all, today's case it's crazy. It's one of those cases where I really don't know how I feel. I need y'all to let me know at the end, like once I tell y'all the whole story, what's y'all stance on this? What y'all think about it? Because I'm still kind of conflicted, but not really. And I just need to know what y'all think. But yeah, with all that being said, let's just go ahead and hop right into today's case. And today we are in Arizona with a couple named Scott and Yarmila Falater. Now, Scott and Yarmila was a couple who dated in high school and throughout college, and they both went on to earn their master's degrees before the two of them eventually ended up getting married. And Scott will go on to become an engineer, and if I'm not mistaken, Yarmila became a teacher's assistant. And eventually the couple would welcome two children, a daughter named Megan and a son named Michael. But once Michael was born, Yarmila decided that she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom now. She didn't want to work anymore. And with Scott's job as an engineer, Yarmila was afforded that luxury to be able to stop working. Eventually, the family moved from Illinois to Arizona due to a better job opportunity for Scott. And I don't know if it happened prior to them moving to Arizona or if it happened after they moved to Arizona, but Scott and Yarmila would convert from Catholicism to the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And as the years passed, the family would stay devoted to their new religion and each other. And by 1997, Scott and Yarmila had been married for upwards of 20 years at this point. Megan was 15, Michael was 12, and everything seemed to be going just fine in the Falater home. Yarmila was still enjoying every bit of being a stay-at-home mom, and Scott was an engineer for Motorola. I think it was either a software engineer or an electrical engineer, but either way, he worked for Motorola. So y'all remember when cell phones was just now coming out? Y'all remember these big old phones, these flip phones, stuff like that? Yeah, Scott had a hand in that. And as far as Scott and Yarmila go, they were more in love than ever. Scott would describe Yarmila as his best friend, and one of Yarmila's co-workers said that she even asked Yarmila, like, hey, I know it's something about this man that gets on your nerves, that annoys you, that gets under your skin. And Yarmila will always respond like, no, he's just a really good guy. She absolutely adored her husband, and he absolutely adored his wife. That's why when the events of today's case take place, everybody was sitting there looking stupid in the face because they didn't know, like, what happened. So it's January 16th, 1997, and y'all know how this goes. The day was going normally. The day was nothing out of the ordinary. So Scott wakes up early in the morning to go to the church and teach a religious education class that he taught, I think it was every day, before he dropped Megan off at school, and then he proceeded to go to work. He did his engineer thing at work, and then he headed home where he had dinner with Yarmila and the kids. So after dinner, Scott did what he always did after dinner, which was to get his lesson plan prepared for the next day for his class at the church. And while he was getting his lesson plan together, Yarmila asked him could he fix the pool filter for the family pool that they had outside, because Yarmila had this thing where she did not want her pool to go green. So at the first sign of anything going wrong, she wanted it fixed ASAP. And so she asked Scott to fix the filter, and he said he would do it after he finished with his lesson plan. And by 9 o'clock, he was done with his lesson plan. The kids were going to bed, and Yarmila was doing whatever it was that she was doing. And so Scott goes outside and he starts to fix the pool filter. However, whatever it was that he had to fix, he couldn't quite get it, and he decided that he would do it the next day. He would try again the next day. So he went inside to let Yarmila know that he couldn't fix it, but he would definitely get around to it the next day. And when he went inside, he saw that Yarmila had fallen asleep on the couch. So he kissed her, and she didn't wake up, but he still told her anyways that he promised he would fix the pool filter tomorrow. And he headed off to bed himself. And that was between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. And this is where stuff starts to get a little bit fuzzy, because it's around 10 o'clock p.m. and the Falater's neighbors are getting ready for bed when the woman of the house kind of hears, like, she described it as whimpers or very faint cries coming from her neighbor's yard, which is the Falaters. And so she solicits her boyfriend at the time, who I think is her husband now. She solicits him to go check it out, to go see what's going on. So he popped his head over the fence and he sees a lady on the ground, kind of just sprawled out. Now his initial thought process was that she had just had too much to drink and she had kind of passed out. And he was like, oh damn, that's unfortunate. And he was about to go back and mind his business. But as he's about to turn around and leave, he sees Scott come out of the house and drags the lady, who he now knows is Yarmila, to the pool, pushes her in, and then he proceeds to hold her head underwater. And so he immediately goes and calls the police and tells them what he just saw. So police arrive and they immediately go to the backyard, where they find Yarmila in the pool, which is now mostly red. The police officers said that it was reminiscent of what they would assume a shark attack looks like. So they grab Yarmila out of the pool and know immediately that there is no saving her. And at the same time, they also see movement inside of the house. Now remember, when the neighbor called, he told them what he saw, and he knows his neighbors. So he's giving names. He says, Scott did this to Yarmila, right? So they see who they believe to be Scott inside the house, just moving along all willy-nilly. And so they make entry into the house. And as they're making their way inside the house, Scott hears them and starts to come down the stairs. Now, when they see Scott, they're yelling demands at him, get down, get on the ground, who else is in the house, with, you know, all the stuff that police normally yell when they see a suspect. And Scott is confused. He don't know what's going on. So he's asking them, like, what is y'all doing in my house? What is going on? What's happening here? And so, like I said, the police asked him, was there anyone else in the house? And Scott said his wife and his 2 kids. And the officer was kind of taken aback by this statement because Scott just said his wife was in the house. But the officer literally just seen his wife in the pool. So they handcuff Scott and start looking around the house trying to find the kids. And they hoping that the kids didn't meet the same fate as their mother. Unfortunately, they had not. They were in their beds, sound asleep throughout the whole ordeal, completely oblivious to everything until the police woke them up. So Scott was taken in for questioning, and Yarmila's body was taken to the medical examiner's office, where it was found that she had been stabbed 44 times. So back at the police station, they confront Scott with this information that Yarmila had been stabbed 44 times. And Scott seems very confused. He is very distraught. And he says he has no idea what the police are talking about, because the last thing he remembers is going to bed and then waking up with guns in his face. And as the detectives are questioning Scott, one of them notices that Scott got a little bit of blood on his neck. And so he points this out to Scott, and Scott genuinely seems lost and confused, and he apologizes. Like, he said, sorry, I didn't know. And so the detectives just keep pressing Scott about what happened to Yarmila, and throughout the whole entire interview, Scott maintains that he has no idea. He don't know what happened to his wife. Now, what he never did though was deny that he did something to her. He never said, I did not do this. He always said, I don't know. In any event, they arrested him and charged him with the murder of his wife. Now, like I said, everybody who knew Scott and Yarmila could not believe that this was true, because Scott and Yarmila were the ideal couple. Even the kids said that they really never seen their parents argue. Of course, they had their normal marital disagreements, but they never saw their parents get into full-blown arguments. And they never even saw their dad express anger outwardly, if that makes sense. Yes, they saw him angry and they knew that he was angry, but he never yelled, he never raised his voice, he never like punched a wall or nothing like that. His anger was more like, oh my God, I'm so mad right now type of thing. And so nobody believed that Scott could have done this. So as they're preparing for trial, Scott's mom and sister are racking their brains trying to figure out like, how could this have happened? And at first, Scott's defense was going to try to use an insanity plea, but his sister felt like, no, he's not crazy, so don't try to use the insanity defense because he's not going to win that. And so, like I said, they racking their brains, and then one day they remember that Scott used to sleepwalk. And so they were like, oh my gosh, could he have been sleepwalking, right? And so the defense attorney was like, well, that's a possibility. Have you ever known him to be violent during the sleepwalking episode? At first, they were like, no, because most of his sleepwalking episodes were very, I guess you could say, innocent, where he would come downstairs fully dressed for school at 12 o'clock in the morning, or just walk out of his room naked, about to get ready for a shower or something. But then his sister remembered this one time where she was up late watching TV and Scott came downstairs and she said something to him and he just walked past her like almost in a trance-like state and didn't respond. And so she knew that he was sleepwalking, and it looked like he was about to head for the kitchen door and leave. And so in an attempt to stop him from leaving the house, she ran past him to lock the kitchen door. Now, I'm not sure why your kitchen door not locked already if you up in the middle of the night by yourself downstairs. But that's neither here nor there. So she kind of walked past him, and when she does, she kind of brushed his shoulder a little bit. And once she did that, Scott picked her up and pretty much threw her across the kitchen. But that was the only time that they could think of that he was actually violent during a sleepwalking episode. But that was enough for the defense, and they decided to go with that. Boom, he was sleepwalking. He had to have been, because there's no other real explanation, because he don't even remember doing it. So now we make it to the trial. And the prosecuting attorney you may have heard of, his name is Juan Martinez. If you are familiar with the Jodi Arias case, you would know that he was the one who prosecuted that case. And while he's no longer a practicing attorney anymore, if you know anything about him, you know that he is a beast, okay? Or was a beast, okay? And so in this case, the prosecution's stance was that Scott was not sleepwalking. He was not sleepwalking at all. He knew full and well what he was doing, and there was evidence to prove that. So they started with the blood on his neck during questioning. Remember I told y'all that Scott had some blood on his neck during questioning. Well, even though he had blood on his body, his clothes were clean. There was not a speck of blood on his clothes. And the prosecution said that that was because he showered and changed clothes, but he had forgot to wash his neck good. Secondly, there was more than one act of violence that was committed. There was the stabbing and the drowning. And then thirdly, while the detectives were searching the Falater home, they went into the garage and found a Tupperware container that was inside of the trunk of the car. And while this seemed pretty innocent, detectives noticed that something was kind of hanging out of the Tupperware, and inside of said Tupperware was bloody clothes and the murder weapon, a knife. And so that indicated the concealment of evidence. And to further their point, they brought in a sleepwalking expert. And this sleepwalking expert said that it's not uncommon for a sleepwalker to commit an act of violence, but what is uncommon is for a sleepwalker to commit multiple acts of violence in that sleepwalking state. So the stabbing might have been while he was sleepwalking. However, the fact that he went inside and then came back outside to, I guess, finish the job, that indicated that he was either never sleepwalking to begin with, or he was sleepwalking and then woke up and decided to continue. And he also said that while sleepwalkers might misplace items, they never or hardly ever conceal items or try to hide anything. So the fact that the bloody clothes and the murder weapon were found inside of a Tupperware, that was inside of a trunk, that was inside of a garage, it shows intent. And altogether, this sleepwalking expert had a list of 62 things that Scott did that was inconsistent with a sleepwalker. And so obviously the defense's defense was that, no, Scott was sleepwalking. He was sleepwalking the whole time. He cannot be held accountable for what he did not know he did. So you know the defense brought their own sleepwalking expert to the stand. And their sleepwalking expert said that it's not uncommon for a sleepwalker to try to complete tasks that they didn't finish throughout the day. So the defense pretty much said that what happened was Scott woke up and he tried to complete the task of fixing the pool filter, since that's what he was doing right before he went to bed. And at some point during him trying to fix the pool filter while he was sleepwalking, Yarmila woke up and went outside and kind of, obviously touched him and told him to come back inside. And once she touched him, that initiated his reaction to attack her. And so that is what happened. Now, me personally, I got some questions about that, because if that were true, say he did go sleepwalk and try to fix the pool filter, Yarmila interrupted him or whatever, and he attacked her. My question is, where was the knife? Where was the knife? Why you needed a knife to fix the pool filter? I don't have a pool, so I don't know. Do you need a knife to fix the pool? And then furthermore, from my understanding, this was a hunting knife. This wasn't like a kitchen knife. It wasn't a steak knife, nothing like that. This was actually a hunting knife. So why you got a hunting knife outside trying to fix the pool filter? You know? Like, I don't know. I just got questions. Anyway, Scott ended up taking the stand in his own defense, and he still maintained that he had no idea what happened. He still is not denying that he did it. He's not saying that it wasn't him. But what he is saying is that he has no recollection of the attack at all. And he said that he did not knowingly and willingly murder his wife. Now, when the jury went back to deliberate, they wasn't trying to decide on whether or not Scott did it, because it was clear that he was the culprit of this crime. They wasn't trying to figure out whether he did it or not. What they had to figure out was he sleepwalking or not? And it took them 8 hours to come back with a verdict, and they came back with a verdict of guilty. And they really said that their decision ultimately came down to the fact that he concealed evidence. And because of the type of crime that it was, Scott was facing the death penalty. However, during the sentencing phase, when people, you know, could talk on Scott's behalf or against Scott, and the majority of the people who talked were speaking for Scott, saying that he did not deserve the death penalty. And the judge, he took their statements into consideration, but he said that it was the children who swayed him to not give Scott the death penalty. And so he ended up getting life in prison without the possibility of parole. And yeah, that's where Scott remains to this day, in jail, still maintaining the fact that he still does not have any recollection of what he did to Yarmila. And he said that he still loves her and she was very undeserving of what happened to her, but he don't know what happened. But yeah, y'all, like I said, I told y'all this was a crazy one. Do y'all believe that he was sleepwalking or not? Because I'm inclined to believe that he was not. Like I said, I just have questions. Where did the knife come from? Why you need a knife to be fixing the pool filter? Was it just sitting out there already and then she interrupted you and you attacked her? Like, I don't understand. How do you explain the dragging her to the pool and drowning her? How do you explain changing your clothes, not once but twice? How do you explain putting your clothes in a Tupperware that was inside of a garage, that was inside of a car, that was, you know, like, And if you was sleeping during the first attack and then you woke up, why wouldn't you call the police? You would probably be in shock that your wife is here, stabbed. You would, like, would you not call and be like, oh my gosh, somebody stabbed my wife? Especially if you didn't think that it was you. Right? Am I right? I don't know. And then the fact that there was a person who used the sleepwalking defense before and got away with it. Was this all a calculated plan? Like, I don't know. But y'all let me know what y'all think. And thank you all so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next one. I really be talking to this camera like y'all right here. I'm gonna call this man Mike on accident. I know I am, because I called the man Mike the whole time I was writing the fucking script. The man's name is Scott. Eventually, the family would end up moving from Illinois to... where'd they go? Eventually, the family moved from Arizona. No, they didn't move from Arizona. Their son, Michael, was 15. No, he was 12. And he knows his neighbors. So he Have you ever known him to be violent while he sleepwalked? While he sleepwalked?